I'm back again. Tried to upload 2 videos back in September, and for whatever reason they're too long and having issues, and I haven't quite resolved them yet, but I think I kind of got an idea now, so I'm going to try to keep an eye on my time. But there's another prompting that I've had. There was a a student in a local high school that she called 911 and said that she was suicidal and she had a gun with her, and this was in a local high school. Well, they took care of it, and I'm not sure what all resulted from it, but that just kind of brought me back to when I was in high school, and or not in high school. I was in school. I can't remember if it was middle school or the very first of high school, which would be 8th or 9th grade. But there was and there was some things that happened one of those years that was a very pivotal. It was very hard, and as a teenager, trying to walk through and figure out everything, on top of and also being in the church and being a Christian, and it was hard. I had a friend that I didn't know at the time, but I kind of had an idea, and it wasn't until later on in high school that there were some other things that were, but she was gay. She and that was a result of things that went on in her home life, and I was still her friend, and I wasn't separating her or isolating her, or I was just trying to be her friend. And because of that, and at that time when I was in school, that lifestyle was very, very much frowned upon, and it wasn't talked about a lot. Anyhow, there was a pivotal situation where we was in a class, and the teacher left us alone. It was during a PE or a health or something. Anyhow, it was a coach that was teaching, or it was over the class. Anyhow, they was doing something outside on the football field. Well, we were left in the gym or the dugout or wherever it was that we was, and the whole class turned, and it got ugly. There was a lot of comments. There was even a song, a chant that was made, and I went home and I shared with my mother, and my mother knew some of the parents of some of the other kids. Well, anyhow, she contacted, and these were kids from another church, and that kind of tainted. Yeah, that type of lifestyle is wrong, and it is a sin, but it kind of set the tone. And because my mom reached out and contacted another parent, it actually made the situation even worse, to the point to where school was hard. And I'm sorry, I've got a cat right here at my lap. I'm in the hallway, so he's sensing things and trying to get my attention, so I may get distracted, but I'm going to try to stay on task. But anyhow, the rest of my high school was not pleasant. It was not fun. And at that time, it was, you suck it up, you deal with it, or just ignore it, and you get the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. They may say that, and they may try to get that to work, but that is the furthest thing, as someone that has been through that, especially as a child or a young adult or a teenager, a youth. That's the hardest thing to try to maneuver by yourself. It didn't help that I was the only youth in the church that we went to that was my age, so there wasn't any other ones that I could lean into, and the ones that did that damage, they were in the big church, the popular church. If you wasn't part of this church, you wasn't anything. So that kind of, and I'm probably gonna tick some people off, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, hurt people, and you have other people that are Pharisees, and they are strictly on rules and regulations and pointing out everybody's faults. Well, growing up, I got married while I was a senior in high school. It was not because I was pregnant. It was because that was a pivotal trauma point. I'll just go ahead and put it what it is. It was a trauma point that defined, and that has stuck for most of my life. Those words and just the ugliness of those other kids, and to not have that support from anywhere else, and looking for affirmation, looking for love. My parents, I don't fault them. They did the best they could. Each one of our generations, as we become parents, we take what we've learned, or we take how we were raised, and that's how we parent, or that's how the parenting is done for the next generation that raises up. That goes back to I can't remember if I've said it in another video, but whenever God brings your attention that you've done something wrong, you've got that choice that you can make. You can either choose to let God help you make better choices, or you can continue on with what's already deeply embedded, and continue doing the harm, hurt people. That's just, and I'm guilty. I've been there, done that. Still walk through that, which is how I ended up during the second marriage. My husband was in addiction, and I've shared that. Of course, so that other video hadn't been uploaded, but anyway, in order to, I thought I found Al-Anon, and it was only by somebody suggesting it. Well, I went into Al-Anon thinking that I was going to fit him, and during Al-Anon, I kind of got the idea, not the idea, but I kind of got the, yeah, I've got my own baggage, and yeah, I've got my own, and I'm trying, and I'm pushing, I'm putting expectations and everything else of what I'm trying to have to deal with over onto other people instead of focusing on me. That was a hard pill to swallow. Being raised in the church, and you get this holier than thou mentality stuck in your mind, and yeah, you think, well, I ain't got no faults. We all have fault. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, which is why we need Jesus. See, I got my cat right here. He's sitting here being very patient and loving on me. But I went through Al-Anon, and in Al-Anon, and for those that don't know, Al-Anon is for the people that are associated with those who are an alcoholic. You have the AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. Al-Anon is for basically the loved ones of those who are an alcoholic. And they focus mostly on a higher power. There's not a definite point to who the higher power is, because you have all these religions, and they kind of don't want to offend, I guess, just simply because they use the higher power. But after husband number 2 went into a rehab. While he was in rehab, he had said something about that he wasn't comfortable with the AA, and so I went searching and I found Celebrate Recovery. Well, we ended up at Celebrate Recovery, and I've been in and out a couple of times. That's where I've done the 12-step study. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago I had gotten pamphlets shortly after we had started, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago I found them. I was cleaning through some stuff and I found them. Well, there was one pamphlet that it was titled "Physical, Emotional, and Sexual Abuse," and it had the 12 steps listed. And I haven't really had the physical. There has been some in the yeah. If I'm being honest, there has, but it hasn't been to where it's noticeable, to where there's been bruises or anything. And I'm not so sure about the sexual. I can't remember any of my childhood, but the emotional, that goes back to that trauma back in the high school. And it is 11 minutes, so I'm gonna do the 12 steps in another video. But it was freeing to actually read what the 12 steps of the emotional abuse is, and to realize that I'm not, that it's not